Welcome to the Comic Sauce Podcast, where we talk comics and comics culture. I am Henry Liu, and today I'm joined by Porfirio Rangel. Porfirio, how's it going?
Hey Henry, it's good to be here and chatting with you. It's all good.
Great. I'm also joined by Christian Diadamo. Christian, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well.
Awesome. So today is July 31st, 2025, and we're going to talk about the new Fantastic Four movie, the latest MCU release. We've all seen it, and we're going to talk all about it. So let's give the spoiler alert. We will get into detail on this film. But before we dive into the movie, question for you guys.
hmm
Who is your favorite member of the Fantastic Four? How about you start, Christian?
I love me some Johnny Storm.
Nice.
He's the wise, he's the one cracking wise. I love the flame powers, and of course, he's good friends with Spider-Man.
That's right. Good call out. How about you, Porfirio?
Sorry, can I ask, are you talking about just in the comics or like in this movie?
Oh, that is a good question. So I'm thinking generally, it
Okay,
could be comics, it could be this movie, it could be any Fantastic Four movie, but just kind of generally speaking, who's your favorite?
I'll go with Christian also. Human Torch. Johnny Storm is hilarious, cool powers, and yeah, awesome dude.
All right, some Human Torch love going on. I'm down, I'm down. Although I would go with The Thing. I am a big Thing fan from the comics. Um, Great catchphrase. It's clobbering time. Love that. And yeah, the thing in Marvel Comics historically has been a lot of fun because like the panels with the Thing battles were always awesome, like a lot of destruction and a lot of, mayhem. So those were a lot of fun to me. So I'll go with the Thing. All right. And another follow-up question here. Why does the Fantastic Four matter? You guys
Mm,
have any thoughts
Ooh,
on that?
I
yeah.
mean, go ahead, Christian.
Well, because they're the first. They're Marvel's first family. When Stan Lee is like kind of big break as Stan Lee, it was like a huge hit and kind of started, when Marvel kind of moved over from Timely Comics to Marvel, it started the 616 that we know and love today.
Well said. Yeah. I think people still kind of forget about that, right? Where it really was the Fantastic Four that started it all for Marvel. The Fantastic Four came before Spider-Man, before the X-Men, all those other great Stan Lee creations. So you could argue if it wasn't for the Fantastic Four, there would be none of that, right? Stan Lee wouldn't be the legend he became, and all those great creations would have never happened. Yeah. Uh, it is possible. It is possible. Any thoughts on your end, Porfirio?
No, I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah, with Fantastic Four was before all those comics, like you said, Spider-Man, Iron Man, X-Men. So yeah, give credit where credit's due, and Fantastic Four started it all.
Indeed, indeed. And last little thought on that, the Fantastic Four didn't come before Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, or the Justice League, but they were a big breakthrough in superhero comics because it was the first time we saw a humanized superhero, right? They weren't these mythological type figures that people were used to seeing before then. Stan Lee really broke ground in that respect, right? So that really started things for Marvel with that perspective. Okay, last question before we get to the movie. I was thinking about this where, okay, in the comics, the Fantastic Four came first, Marvel-wise, right? But because of all the crazy licensing that happened, they weren't available to Marvel Studios till more recently, right? So the MCU started with Iron Man. Now, it would seem like it'd be a logical choice that if they had the licensing, if they had all the characters available to them, Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, etc., that maybe in that, you know, in that fictional scenario, that they might do the Fantastic Four first. I don't know. I was just kind of curious to get your thoughts. What if Marvel Studios had no licensing restrictions from the beginning? How do you think they would have rolled out their movies?
You know,
Ooh.
straight up, I still don't think they would have done Fantastic Four first. They still had, the 2005 one with Jessica Alba, which wasn't a huge hit. And I feel like, Marvel was really still trying to, at that time, um, create something worth watching. And they took a
Hmm.
big risk with Iron Man, something that hadn't really been done before and unknown, and it paid off. I feel like if they had done that with Fantastic Four, since they had already seen it in the early 2000s, it without any experience with Marvel Studios, I just feel like it wouldn't have like Marvel Studios would have been dead in the water before it even
Mm,
started.
good point. Christian, thoughts?
Yeah, it's like the restrictions are kind of what bred the MCU as it was
Hmm.
because they could only use the Avengers, so they had to like really make it work. Um, it's hard to say where I'd place if like you have like an MCU where I'd place the Fantastic Four. I'd almost see them like if they had everything, but they still wanted to do the same general MCU storyline, the Infinity Stones, Thanos, all that kind of stuff. Um, I feel like they would throw Spider-Man in much earlier, say
Yeah.
phase 1, and they'd throw in Fantastic Four phase 2. Almost instead of the Guardians, that would be their big space one.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
That's my guess.
Yeah. You guys
So
are making great points. I agree with pretty much all that. Yeah. Like, it is interesting that the Fantastic Four in comics are really like number one in terms of they came first and it all came from them. But through the decades, yes, they are a popular property, but definitely not at the level of Spider-Man or the X-Men or some of the other characters, right? So, yeah, I agree too that without restrictions, Marvel Studios probably would not have roll them out first or even among the first, right? I totally get what you're saying, Porfirio. With that first one, they needed a hit, right? And that would have been a risk to do them first. I mean, Iron Man was a risk already, but um, like with the Fantastic Four, it's kind of known that they just aren't super popular. So it took a while, but we finally got an MCU Fantastic Four film. So let's talk about it. Was it good? Was it bad? General thoughts. Let's start with the good. What did we like about the 2025 Fantastic Four movie? Porfirio, you want to kick it off here?
Sure. So, you asked earlier who my favorite Fantastic Four character is, and I asked you, are you talking about movie or the comics?
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, I really, really loved Vanessa Kirby's portrayal of Sue Storm.
Mm.
She was amazing. I feel like she was the one that grounded the team. She like she took out fucking Galactus. Like she was being a mother. The mother instincts took over and she
Mm-hmm.
was a badass. Like she took notes from Scarlet Witch. And so I really loved Vanessa Kirby. She was, I think, the strongest character and actress within the team.
Good call out.
yeah,
Christian,
I
thoughts?
definitely agree with Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. Um, and I like that the movie centers a lot around her and her character. Um, I thought that in previous movies, Sue is usually like cast aside to put a lot more focus on Reed. Whereas in this one, I think they ground it really well, and she's a mother. Of course, they're bringing in Franklin Richards, and Franklin Richards is such a nice centerpiece to the larger plot. And I think her relationship to Franklin, be with as a mother, and her relationship to Reed, like grounds the world really really well, because it's this new world 838 as they start, and it's a completely different world to our own. And I think she goes a long way having a character like Sue Storm in this movie to really ground the story and get you invested. So yeah, really really liked Sue Storm. I thought they had a good use of her powers too.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what Christian brought up, I feel like, before, especially the 2005 version, she was just portrayed as like eye candy, kind of like the butt
Hmm.
of the joke when she couldn't turn her clothes invisible, and so she had to strip off of them. And
Hmm.
yeah, just in this movie alone, Sue Storm had a lot of great moments. She had that one scene where she confronted the protesters outside her house, about that she wouldn't give Franklin up to Galactus, but she wouldn't let them down either. She's the one that really grounds Reed Richards during the whole thing. Like when he's coming up with ideas, when she's like, "No, you can't do this, do this." Like she's the one that turns the fucking spaceship invisible. Like she really has her big moments within throughout the film.
Yeah, all good call outs. Totally agree with all of that. The only thing I would add is not only is Vanessa Kirby great on her own, but she plays off of Pedro Pascal really well too. There was one scene I really loved where it's Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm, and they're kind of arguing about their son. So a big plot point in the movie is Galactus wants their son, right?
Hmm.
He wants Franklin Richards, and he so badly that he says he'll take Franklin and he'll leave Earth alone.
Hmm.
So it becomes this sort of point of debate, and Reed never really considers giving up his son, but his logical mind is such that he thinks about it, right? And that kind of annoys Sue, right? She's like, I know what you're thinking, and like, how
Yeah.
how could you even think that, right? And it's very much like the logical Reed Richards versus the emotional Sue Storm, and that is the dynamic. That's why these characters work well together,
Hmm.
and the two actors are like on point in that scene, and they really shine. So shout out to not only Vanessa Kirby, but Pedro Pascal. Speaking of which, how did you guys think of Pedro Pascal's performance in this one?
Now, let me just say, Pedro, he's my man. Like I would love everything that dude does. Like I'll watch it all. I'll be in line. I will say, like when they first announced he was casted for Reed Richards, I seriously had doubts. I was like, I didn't see it. I was like, Pedro, he has skills, but I don't know. I don't know. But, after watching this movie, I could be like, dude, Pedro, of course. Of course. Why did I have doubts? He killed it as Reed Richards. He just like you were saying earlier, Henry, he about like thinking logically and um versus emotions. Like he was very much in his head about a lot of stuff. He was like,
Yeah.
oh, we should do this, can we do this, like here's some this idea, and like Pedro's just fucking talented. That's all I could say, and he did really great as Reed Richards.
Hmm. Hmm. Christian, thoughts on the performance?
Yeah, Pedro Pascal is definitely a brand complete with a
Oh
mustache.
yeah.
And like part of me, there was a part of me when you first see it, you're like, well, why don't you just shave it off? Reed doesn't
Yeah.
Hmm.
have a mustache, but he does it so well. You just kind of you think, man, all right, Reed's got a mustache now.
Right.
Yeah, I really like Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. Like I would definitely say like I think of the four, this isn't. as much of a complaint, but I feel like the Ford. I think he was probably my least favorite as presented in the movie, but I still think he did a really great job as Reed.
Hmm.
I I think he played him really well. I thought he was very captivating, and like it's fun to watch him like just think through things. He's got his chalkboard,
Yeah.
as he's
Hmm.
trying to figure out these problems. Um, like we'll probably, I guess, maybe we'll get into it more when we get into the bad stuff. Um, we didn't see a lot of the stretchy powers, but I liked what we saw.
Hmm.
Yeah, one thing that came to mind, I don't know if you guys caught this, but it does seem like this Reed Richards is possibly on the autism spectrum. You guys
I
catch that?
I was totally gonna to ask you guys that because I read a lot of comments on social media that like a lot of autistic um people loved how autism, I guess, was portrayed. They were like,
Hmm.
"Oh, Reed Richard, I could relate," because of that like kind of just being so focused on like on all the smart stuff and everything, writing on the board and
Yeah.
just like I don't know what the right term is, but just being so focused on that. So I didn't catch that until I read the social comments, but I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a couple
Huh.
moments that pointed to that. So throughout the movie, he's very like logical, analytical minded, and so much that he's just thinking of the logical outcomes and not so much about like his family's
Hmm.
response to what he has to say. And that's where Sue kind of gets angry at him, right? So there's that. That's kind of an autistic trait. But then a little more explicitly, he's talking to his son about like, I hope you don't end up like me, and it kind of struck me and I was thinking, oh, I think he's talking about like um neurodiversity and like
Hmm.
autism spectrum stuff.
Hmm.
So pretty cool, it's subtle, but it's there and it's like Marvel again kind of showing up with some representation, right? So
Hmm.
pretty
Hmm.
cool. All right. So moving on. What else did we like? Yeah, any other call outs here,
Mhm.
Christian?
Let's see. Well, I think they did my boy Johnny really, really well in this. I thought we got a really good view of Johnny's powers with there's a lot of scenes of him chasing the Silver Surfer around, and you got to see a lot of the flight with him. The flaming on looked really cool. He's definitely less of a meathead in this
Hmm.
movie.
Yeah, yeah,
Meathead womanizer.
yeah,
Hmm.
They kind of like bring it up a little bit
yeah. It's
when
subtle,
he talks about how he first meets Shia LaBeouf, but he's also a scientist, and he gets his own scientist bit in the movie when
right?
he kind of figures out the language and deciphers the language to talk to
Hmm.
the Silver Surfer. And I thought that was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You like kind of give the more sciency kind of moment to him rather than just having him be, more of the like wisecracking meathead that they kind of show off in like the uh the 2000s one with the Chris
Mm.
Evans versions.
Yeah, yeah.
So I really like Johnny Storm in this movie.
Cool, cool. Porfirio, any other shout outs here?
I don't think I liked Johnny Storm as much as Christian did. I think it
Hmm.
was really cool. Yeah, I was surprised they gave him a smart moment, figuring out the deciphering the language. But I kind of wish it gave him a little bit more humor. Um,
Mm.
just 'cause I I feel like that's what we know Johnny Storm for in the comics, and I feel like I missed that from him. But Joseph killed it though as with the character. He killed it. No, I'm not giving him fault or anything. No, he killed it. Um, I was gonna ask though, what like why was he part of that spaceship mission? Was it because if he was smart or because he was a pilot or did this movie say?
I mean, they gave a very brief mention at the very beginning
Hmm.
during that montage scene,
Yeah.
um, and it was Reed who was saying he wanted the most brilliant, the most brilliant scientists for his team, but they also happened to be his best friend and his wife and his brother-in-law, you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
So it is different, right? In the past, the Human Torch portrayals has been this like womanizing, hothead, knucklehead kind of guy, right? But here he is like a legit scientist, right? So yeah, it's a different take. It's definitely different in that respect. Um, oh hey, as long as you're talking about that initial montage scene, I just want to shout that out because I thought it was super cool. So this movie isn't an origin story, but it does show the origin of the Fantastic Four, and it's like super efficient about it. It almost kind of reminds me a little bit of the Superman movie we just saw, right? That definitely wasn't an origin story, and it just kind of hit the ground running. And they did a similar thing here. They did explain the origin, but they didn't dwell on it at all, and it was just like blink and you miss it kind of thing. And the very beginning of the movie has this great pace. They move it along, and yeah, that scene was so cool. Like you saw all these villain appearances, and just like immediately you're thrown into the world and you know what's going on. You know that they're established superheroes. You even get to see some action there, and you can see what they can do. I really love that initial scene. What did you guys think?
I feel like I like this monologue, the origin monologue, more than how they did it with Superman.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Superman was just like, here's a screen and read it. What happens? He
Yeah,
came
yeah,
onto Earth here. This is what happened. He did his powers here, and then we got thrown into a universe that was already established.
yeah.
Fantastic Four, I mean, they kind of did the same thing, but the origin, since they actually used visuals of how they got their powers and everything, you're like, okay, like catching up a little by little, like, um, and then so by the time we got into like the main storyline, it just felt like we caught up very fast, like in a good like 10 minutes or 5 minutes. We were able to catch up to what's going on. And then there were like introduced new characters. So like, Franklin, since he was also very vital to the story, like introducing new characters helped us like, you know, um care for them. And there was a
Mm.
bunch of like character development. What about you, Christian?
Like, yeah, I will say I did like this, I think, better than the Superman opening. Um, and I think it like I think they established the world really well,
Yeah.
the '60s world
Yep.
Hmm.
with it, which I just kind of I loved. I loved the atmosphere, the retrofuturism of it. Like it reminded me a lot of the Jetsons. I think
Oh
coming out of the
yeah.
movie, I definitely said that. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, that seemed like the Jetsons a lot.
Yeah.
So I think the way they do it kind of does it does it twofold where it kind of shows um like it gets you into the '60s world and like shows you the characters really well
Mm-hmm.
with like their like Ed Sullivan show.
Right. Hey, speaking of which, yeah, maybe we'll talk about the aesthetics a bit. The movie does not take place in the main continuity MCU, Earth 616, right? It's a
Hmm.
different universe. And this Earth is, at this particular time, very 60s style. Like you're saying, Christian, it has that retro futuristic feel to it. And I also noticed that it's a very idealistic world, a very wholesome world. Um, yeah, Porfirio, you mentioned that scene, that great Vanessa Kirby speech where she kind of sways the crowd, right? So,
Hmm.
um, the general population is pretty upset with the Fantastic Four because they find out that the Fantastic Four refused to give up Franklin Richards to Galactus,
Hmm.
thereby putting the entire planet in jeopardy, right? So they're
Mhm.
upset. They're saying, well, you got to give up your kid and save the world, right? You're putting us all in harm's way. But then Sue Storm gives this great speech about how, yes, you will not sacrifice her son to save the world, but she also will not sacrifice the world, uh, vice versa.
Yeah.
Um, but and it worked, right? The crowd like sides with the Fantastic Four at that point, and like the entire world like rallies behind the Fantastic Four, right? They do everything that needs to get done to
Hmm.
create these like teleportation devices. And I was just thinking, this would never happen in real life. Like the entire planet coming together to help each other. Like, what is this even, right? So it's kind of cool to see that happen in this world, but at the same time, it didn't feel genuine or realistic in any way. I was curious about what you guys thought about that particular plot development.
No, I definitely agree. I think yeah, talked about this with Christian. I feel like that was a negative for me, that
Hmm.
this felt very idealistic. I do love that Vanessa Kirby scene where she talks to the crowd, but no, that would not happen. Folks would still be like, "Oh, fuck no." Like they would try to create chaos or something. And especially, yeah, like when they made those teleportation devices, like there was like something that had to be done was um Reed had to say like, "Hey, we had to shut the power off at this time," you know? It's like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
no, the world would not
No,
agree to that."
no one could agree on that at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, what about like security, airports, trains, like
right.
communication, like there was no way the entire world would have agreed to shut down the power. There was just, yeah, just a lot of things that I was like, no, there's no way. Like, yeah, like when they came back from the trip and they had that press conference, there was no riot, they were
Yeah,
upset, but there's no riots or anything.
right.
So no, that was definitely a negative part of the movie.
Yeah, in real life, this country can't even change the daylight savings time, even though everyone wants to get rid of it. It's like there's no way the entire world could come to an agreement on this like teleportation thing. So I
Mhm.
100% agree. Any thoughts on that, Christian?
Yeah, I guess in real life, people are like, well, what if Galactus isn't really real?
Right.
What?
Fake news.
Yeah, what if this isn't? Because like they established that like Sue Storm is like becomes a politician,
Oh, right. Yeah.
Mhm.
in it. So it's almost like that like they're it's a world that already kind of brokered world peace beforehand. Like the nations were already at peace with each other, and the only threats were like just your usual Fantastic Four villains.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it is like extremely optimistic in a way. Um, but like not so much like I wouldn't say as like political as say as like Superman was
Mm.
in that.
Yeah.
But you do get the idea that it's like, oh, okay, when the nations come together, you could see kind of what they achieve.
Mhm.
And so it shows the Fantastic Four are like top superhero. They kind of go above and beyond when it comes to superheroes because they've done the
Yeah.
impossible.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So I think we're starting to touch on some negatives. We can certainly continue with positives as they pop up, but maybe we'll start shifting towards some of the negatives. So interestingly, I've noticed we've talked about Reed, Sue, and Johnny, but what about Ben Grimm? It seems like this might be a negative. I don't know. What did you guys think about the thing in this movie?
I like the thing. I really liked the performance from I just had it, but um Eben Moss Bachrock. I don't know if I said that right. I thought he did a good performance. I feel like they get the softer side of him really well, but he's also like he's got kind of the gruff exterior, but he's a softy on the inside. I feel
Hmm.
like they get that and they hammer that home, I think, a little too much. But I was really disappointed that you never really get to see him get in a fight with anybody, except for
Hmm.
like that little bit of the montage at the beginning.
Yep.
Like he's known to be the fighter of the group.
Yeah.
But I think with Galactus and Silver Surfer, you can't really do that. Galactus is too big and Silver Surfer is too fast and flies. So it didn't feel like there was enough for Ben to do. I was very disappointed that for the
Yeah.
guy who's supposed to say it's clobbering time, he never clobbers anybody.
I 100% agree. Like this is the it's clobbering time dude, and he doesn't clobber anybody in this movie. So like, what the fuck? Come on. Um, yeah, sorely lacking in the action department. And I had some other problems with the thing also. Like it is a different kind of Ben Grimm, where before he's like he's got that kind of gravelly voice and he's like a wise guy, like New York street wise guy. And this one definitely is like the more soft-spoken Ben Grimm, right? More sensitive. Um, and I don't know if that really worked for me either. Like I just didn't find this character all that interesting. I was saying earlier, this is like my favorite character among the four in the comics. But I found myself completely uninterested in his story in this movie. What about you, Porfirio?
Now, I could agree with both of you guys. I think it was a different version, I feel like, of Ben, a very softer version, but I feel like out of the Fantastic Four, he was the kind of like the most forgettable, if
Mm-hmm.
and he has the biggest presence, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I still different, but I still liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only thing I will say I didn't like was the facial hair.
Oh God, don't get me
The Rock
started.
facial hair.
The rock beard. Like
The
what
rock
the
beard.
hell? Oh man. It did not look right. Like it just looked all kinds of wrong, in my opinion. They made a choice and it was a whiff. It was a swing and a miss, I think. But
Yep. They have it for
whatever.
like a good portion of the movie.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's like longer than a gag.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was
I,
definitely for those merchandise, that those like shaver like collab that Marvel
yeah,
probably did with other shaving cream companies or
yeah.
something.
I mean, it sounds like you're kind of half joking, but I think that's a big part of it, right? Because Fantastic Four merch that has a bearded thing is for this movie. So like anything action figure had up to this point is not the thing in this movie, right? Because he didn't have the beard. So
Yeah.
like, oh, you got to get this one, the new one with the beard, right? I mean, I'm sure that came up, that whole toyetic thing, right? So yeah, I don't know.
Maybe, maybe that's also why Reed kept his mustache.
Ah, there you go. Yes.
This movie loves its facial hair.
Yeah. I
Well,
was
I heard
thinking that too. Yeah. Like Reed's already got facial hair. We don't need the fucking thing with a beard. But anyhow, go ahead.
well, I also heard Reed Richards, I think, addressed that, or Pedro addressed that in an interview, saying that he does not like shaving his facial hair.
Hmm. Yeah.
He said the last time he shaved it was Wonder Woman 2, and he said he looked ridiculous.
Yeah. Hey, it's like a good luck charm at this point, right? Ever since he grew that thing back, he's been on fire.
Hmm.
So why rock the boat? All right. What else here? We haven't talked about Galactus yet. What about Galactus? Any thoughts?
I am gonna say I had a lot of worries about how they were gonna treat Galactus, you know? I feel like Galactus is one of those villains that um you that's just up there with like Apocalypse and Thanos, you know? He's just up there as being a big baddie, you know? And I was worried if they were gonna like not have him be as a big of a threat as he is in the comics, you know?
Hmm.
Um He wasn't a cloud like in Rise of the Silver Surfer,
Hmm.
so that's a
Hmm.
plus already.
Yeah.
Um, but I really liked how they portrayed Galactus. Like he really felt like a big baddie. I told Christian this, but I was really kind of getting like Infinity War vibes, like with how Thanos was portrayed. I was like, oh my gosh, here's this big dude. He has a big presence. And then here's the Fantastic Four trying to like come up with a solution after solution and failure after failure of how to stop Galactus, and nothing's working. And I mean, I knew they were going to stop him in some way, but I was honestly at the edge of my seat, like, oh shit, how are they going to stop him, you know? And I really, really, really like how they resolved the Galactus issue. They didn't per se defeat him per se, but they just teleported him to another part of the universe, you know, still alive, and he could come back as a threat in the future. So I really like that it wasn't straight up like I evaporated or killed or whatever, you know, it was just like delayed him to another part.
Got it. Yeah, I did like how their solution wasn't defeating Galactus, but just either getting away from him or teleporting him elsewhere, right? But I had some issues there. Like I kind of disagree in a way because yeah, you made the Infinity War comparison, and in Infinity War, we get tons of backstory from Thanos, right? There's flashback scenes, all these character developing scenes where you really understand his background and his motivations. With this film, I feel like we really don't know the Galactus backstory, right? I mean, we have an idea what he's about. He just devours worlds because he has to, and it's just his thing. He's hungry, right? Everyone's got to eat.
Hmm.
So that's his thing. But like I had all kinds of questions like why is he super big and where's he from? And like it didn't explain anything along those lines. And for that reason, I didn't care as much about him, right? He was kind of this figure that didn't have like much depth to him. So yeah, I found myself like not caring about him so much. But what about you, Christian? Any thoughts on Galactus?
Um, I I will say like one thing I liked is when the Galactus was like this kind of looming threat, but you didn't see Galactus in like the second half of the movie after the fight, after they come back and they're like, "Oh my god, what are we gonna do?" And it almost seemed like this like approaching apocalyptic event of Galactus coming and them trying to figure out how to solve the issue. And I really like that bit. I thought that was like a interesting way to like approach it. How they're like, okay, what are we gonna do about this like approaching problem? Um, and I think that was my favorite bit with Galactus. Uh, I will say like he felt very alien. He felt very like very looming in the background,
Yeah.
and so I liked him quite a bit. The final fight was all right with him.
Hmm.
It was all right, but it what I did like that it kind of reminded me of Doctor Strange when he fights Dormammu and just he just has like this plan that he has to stick to.
Mm,
That's
yeah.
just about the bad guy is so powerful that they can't defeat him, so they just kind of have to like push him away farther enough to get away in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I thought that was an interesting way that they defeated him.
Yeah. Yeah. Thinking about it, maybe one way to think of Galactus here isn't a character that needs to be developed. He's more of like a natural disaster to overcome, right? So in that perspective, like it doesn't really make sense to flesh him out too much. And I think in terms of character development from a villain, the Silver Surfer character kind of takes that role in this movie, right? Because we do get to know this one, right? The Shalabal Silver Surfer. We understand what she's about. Yeah, well, as long
So
as we're touching upon that. Oh, go ahead, Porfirio.
so Henry, so
Yeah.
I've heard fans say that, you know, Galactus isn't per se a villain, you know?
Hmm.
I mean, of course he eats worlds and bad for lots of people, you know?
Yeah.
But like you said, he's just eating. He's just hungry.
Yeah.
Can you blame him for being hungry? Can you blame a lion for killing a deer, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess yeah, the question I'm asking either of you is Galactus a villain? Is it, you know, Christian?
Yeah, it's almost like he's a force of nature, you know? He's
Yeah.
like a personified force of nature
Yeah.
that um like a massive tidal wave or an earthquake.
Hmm.
You know, it's just what he does. I guess he is a in a way he is a villain. He's the antagonist. He imprisons Shalabal to become his herald, and he does like act, I think, in a villainous way in the movie. So like I would say he's a villain, but I guess in a way he's also not your traditional villain, the same
Yeah.
way Doctor Doom would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement there. He is a villain, but he isn't a villain the way a massive hurricane is a villain, right? They cause massive death and destruction, but they're just part of the natural order of things, right? So I would put Galactus in that type of villain category. Yeah. So as long as we're talking about Galactus, maybe we can touch upon the Silver Surfer. What do you guys think about this character?
Dope.
What
She
do you
was
like
cool.
about her?
I like that, you know, she was kind of like that, like s- you know, when we didn't see Galactus, we saw her. She was like kind of like the imposing force that kind of scared the Fantastic Four, you know? And I really dug the scenes where they were like in that like teleportation device and then she's like surfing along the portal, whatever. That was super cool. I looked like that's special effects, but
Hmm.
um, you know, I just like that there was also like some character development to her. Like why there was a reason like why she's the villain, you know, because she's kind of her home planet is held hostage, you know.
Hmm.
So it was cool. I enjoyed it. I thought she did a great job and forget the naysayers who were like, "Oh, this is woke Silver Surfer."
Yes, yes, indeed. Christian thoughts?
Yeah, I liked her too. I do think that like big chase scene in the middle. It's probably the best scene of the movie with the teleportation and the like like there's all the stuff going on. Like that's probably the best like action beat. I thought the chase scenes were done really well. With her and Johnny as well. Um, I guess like one thing I was a little confused about. This is just this feels like more of a nitpick. Was I wasn't sure how much she knew about her past, you know?
Mm.
Johnny shows up and then like kind of reveals like, okay, this is who you were, this is the language you spoke that I guess um I could be missing something from the comics as well. But I was like, oh, does she know that? Or okay, I guess she does it. Um but I did think like she was done really well, way better than the last Silver Surfer we had. And I like that they chose Shellaball over I forget yeah, there's um the last Silver Surfer that we had.
Doug Jones?
Doug Joe. Yeah. But I thought they did a good job with her. And I thought it was cool that they used someone different for this movie.
Right on. Okay. Yeah, interestingly, not many negatives are coming up here. Sounds like you guys enjoy this one quite a bit. So I'll bring up some stuff.
Of
So
course, Henry has to rain on our parade.
yeah, that's right. I'm gonna shit on your
Okay.
fantastic parade. No, there's some minor stuff, I guess. Like I mentioned how much I love that initial montage scene,
hmm
and I really was amped up. That scene was fun and fast paced and like had all these uh comics call outs. We saw the red ghost and mole man and shit. Like I was like, whoa, this is great. And I kind of wish the whole movie was like that because I feel like after that scene, the movie really slowed down. Um, yeah, the movie was, how should I put it? It wasn't as fun as that first scene. Yeah. Um, okay, maybe I'll make this point. So, like, I thought about the Superman movie a lot when I was watching this one. Both movies have a wholesome vibe to it, and a vibe that we don't see so much, that we haven't seen a whole lot of with superhero movies for decades, right? Uh, superhero movies tend to want to get edgy, right? Let's get edgier than the comics. Let's dress everyone in black. Let's put some violence in there. Um, I feel like with Superman and Fantastic Four this year, it's a total 180 from that. They're going wholesome. They're going a little more family friendly, right? Um, and I didn't have a problem with that per se, but with the Superman movie, there was a mix. It had that wholesome vibe with the Superman character, but pretty much all the other characters in the movie had this edge to them, right? Like the Justice Gang, for example, a lot more edgy. So it was a kind of a cool balance and a lot more comedy. Like Superman was this kind of straight man character with all this comedic stuff happening around him. Um, But with Fantastic Four, I feel like everyone was kind of in that straight man character, the category. With the film, I didn't really laugh. I didn't think it was that funny. It was very kind of square and corny in a way. I don't know what you guys think about that, but any thoughts to that take?
I could see that. I didn't really laugh a lot like in this movie. It wasn't like a funny movie. Um I will say I did like the kind of slower emotional beats a lot in this movie, and I'm glad that they didn't undercut with any unnecessary jokes or humor. That they kind of let that play out a bit, and I like the emotional beats a lot. The jokes were just more of like, "Hey, the whole clobber. I don't say the clobbering time bit."
Yeah,
They do a few times. That was like okay. That's like the only real joke I think I remember. But that wasn't really like funny. That was just more charming, which I guess is what I'd say about the humor. Is that it's not funny. It's just charming.
yeah.
So I guess it didn't bother me, but nothing really stuck out. But at least it wasn't like intrusive.
hmm Porfirio, what do you think?
I 100% yeah, agree with Christian. I feel like I can't remember that many jokes from the movie, which I think is maybe a good thing because, there's so many Marvel movies I could think of that have too many, like, and that just becomes really annoying. But this one, I felt like there was a good balance of comedy and story and action and emotional depth. And so I did not mind, yeah, the slow beats, just because, this is a new Fantastic Four group that we're being introduced to. Let's get a chance to know them. Let's get to know their world. And I just really like that this was kind of a standalone Marvel movie that you do not have to watch any of the other Marvel movies, and there wasn't any like Marvel Easter eggs connected from the rest of the MCU, that this was its own thing. And we as an audience are introduced to it and learn what this Fantastic Four is. So yeah, I just appreciate it for it taking a different route.
Right on. Yeah, maybe it was a strategy that paid off because the approach really was a more wholesome vibe, and I think audiences are craving that right now. Like people in the world are tired of hearing about death and destruction and negativity, right? Here's a movie that is just feel good beginning to end, right? And it is making a lot of money at the box office. So, um, people like me who maybe don't appreciate it so much, who cares? They're killing it, right? So yeah, we're starting to get into just general thoughts category. So, feel free to throw in any random thoughts. Um, here's one I had. Um, I really was looking for how the Fantastic Four ended up on Earth 616, right? We saw that at the very end of Thunderbolts.
hmm
So I was really curious, like, okay, how did it get from their Earth to 616?
hmm
But we never saw that. We never got that. Porfirio, you were alluding to how there's really no like MCU Easter eggs here. I thought at least they would address that, but they didn't even do that, which kind of annoyed me. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts about like omitting that?
I had a lengthy conversation with Christian about this,
Hmm.
and I was also very much looking for how they would connect that to the post-credit scene in Thunderbolts. Um, there were two scenes within the movie where I thought they were going to get transferred to the universe of Earth 616. The first one was when they were escaping Galactus and Silver Surfer, and they go into that spaceship, the teleportation, like the hyperspace thing, and Ben's like, "Where are we going?" And then Pedro's like, "Wherever," and then I thought he was gonna put in like some kind of coordinates that would go into like some kind of multiverse thing and go into another universe, when they got towards the end of the portal. That didn't happen. And the second time I thought it was gonna happen was when they were building the teleportation devices, where yeah, Reed Richards was like, "Hey, we're gonna teleport to this other place where Galactus can't find us," and it kind of checked all the boxes for me, like, okay, they're not defeating Galactus, they're just escaping from him. And it also did very much feel like the plot to Secret Wars, when the
Mm.
Ultimate Universe and then Earth 616, like those universes kind of they can't coexist and they end up like clashing, you know? And it just made sense that if that was going to come, like if that universe, that Earth was coming into the universe that Earth 616 is, and then later on in the future with those two planets in the same universe, like Secret Wars would have been like that would have been the plot that they just can't exist. Um,
Mm.
but that didn't happen, obviously.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the whole time I was just wondering like how does this connect to that Thunderbolt scene? But then I read somewhere that they are two different ships, that the ship that they launched to go meet Galactus is a totally different ship to the one that we see in Thunderbolts.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
there.
Who knows? Any thoughts on that, Christian?
Yeah. Um, I like that this was like completely on its own. And this movie is like 100% standalone. Um, like even the Marvel movies that are, you would say standalone, still have a few kind of beats from other movies or references to other movies or a
hmm
character that might appear in a different franchise. But I like that this one kind of felt like it was like completely clean.
Hmm.
Um, it, like I guess we'll see how it works and what happens in Doomsday.
Yeah.
And I guess Doctor Doom is going to be the one who's going to connect the two universes together. Um, like that would have been a nice after. I liked the after credit scene where you just got the little hint of them, but it would have been nice to see though in the after credit scene because well, it's not part of a movie; it's a different universe,
hmm
or it's not part of the movie. It's just like the after credit scene. You just stay if you want to see it.
hmm
Yeah. Yeah, I totally thought that they were gonna lead into that Thunderbolt scene at the end of the movie, right? So at the end of this film, the Fantastic Four is supposed to appear on that talk show with Franklin, right? And then they get this like alert and they gotta go. I thought it'd be them like, okay, we gotta go into space. There's some like space anomaly we gotta check out, and then boom, they're like transported into 616 through some portal or who knows what, right? I totally thought that's what was gonna happen, and we didn't see that. So like we were saying, that was kind of annoying. But I almost still think that like they were headed to whatever led them to 616. It kind of feels like that, right? But as of right now, we don't know. And like we've been saying, we'll just have to watch Doomsday. That's probably the answer we're looking for, right? They're just teasing us. You gotta watch
Mhm.
Avengers Doomsday to figure out what's going on, right? Stay tuned. So they're just teasing us. Hey, another thought here. We've been talking about how the eventual way that they saved the planet was not by defeating Galactus, but rather teleporting him elsewhere. Now, I don't know if you guys thought about this, but isn't that not the best solution? They're like kind of pushing that problem onto someone else in a way, yeah? Like I was thinking about Spider-Man No Way Home. Like that's exactly what Peter Parker wanted to do. He's like, let's send these villains back to their home universes. Not my problem. It's not my fault. I'm not responsible for this shit. And then Aunt May checks him, right? It's like, no, no, no. With great power comes great responsibility. You need to do something. You can't just push your problems onto other people. I feel like that's exactly what the Fantastic Four did here, right? They're like, this is a big problem. Let's just put them like somewhere else in the universe and let someone else deal with them, right? Anyone have that thought?
Christian, you go first because I know you had thoughts.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Um, I guess the thing you're talking about that like coming out, like I feel like the there's definitely a few parts of this movie I was like, okay, I have to like turn my brain off a little bit and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the comic book movie logic. Um, but like I can't tell if it's just me or me nitpicking, but like I think like immediately after he said it, I thought Reed's plan to move to just transport the world in the beginning was like the dumbest thing. Like and it's kind of like something like the more you think about it, the more it doesn't make sense. Cause like sure, of course, Reed's the smartest man in the universe, so he probably had you could just imagine, all right, well, he made it work in his head and he probably did the math for it. But the way the planet Earth is because of its place in the universe,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
we have the exact right sun, we're the exact right distance, and we have much larger planets farther away to absorb asteroids. So planet Earth is like very well protected in a way that can sustain life. You can't move that. You move it to some other solar system. If just one of those elements is like out of whack, the Earth is completely screwed. Like, oh yeah, well the sun's bigger, so it's hotter, so we can't sustain that, or the gravity's out of whack here. You know, like there's so many different variables that like the more you unpack it, the more like, God, Reed, that's like the dumbest plan. What are you doing? Like, and of course, what do we got to do? We got to shut off. Everyone's got to shut off their power, as you guys are saying. Like, no country would agree to that. Like, that would complete like, we'll just shut down our entire power grid with all our hospitals right now to move the planet. Like, no, dude, just give up your son. That's not gonna work at all. Like, and so, um, that's my little rant on that. I thought that was pretty dumb, but like I said, that's just kind of something where you're like, all right, I should just shut off my brain and let the movie logic kind of take over. And so, um,
So what about the alternate plan?
the
rather than
alternate plan to
transporting the
move it.
Earth, transporting Galactus himself.
Yeah, it's definitely something that prolongs the inevitable because you're just like, well, he could just come back eventually. I don't know how long it would take. Who knows where they if they was in another universe
Yeah.
or
They were
across the
saying it
solar
would take him
system.
they were saying it would take millions of years to get back to Earth,
Yeah,
supposedly.
he doesn't have his ship,
Right.
so that's also the who knows.
Yeah.
It could feel like a bit of the comic book movie logic,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
kind of
Porfirio, what
taking over.
oh sorry, did you want to finish
No,
that
I
question?
was done. It was just it's comic book movie logic. We defeated him for the movie, and he's gone.
Done deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Porfirio, thoughts on that?
I mean, I pretty much had the same thoughts as Christian. I was like, okay, where the fuck are you gonna teleport to? Like, how do you know if like the sun is gonna be at the same distance, if it's gonna be safe wherever the fuck you're going, you know? I honestly, yeah, was under the impression that it was gonna be transferred to the same universe as Earth 616. So again, I was like, oh, Secret Wars,
Yeah.
the universes collapse against each other. Um, but then, like Christian, once I turned off my logic brain, I was like, whatever, this is cool, this is cool.
Just
I
go with it.
just go with it. No, but I thought it was a fun, cool plan, to just see like, hey, let's get this all together. Let's try to teleport. I was at the edge of my seat, like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? So I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it's a very like early Marvel Comics kind of storyline, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't really make any sense, but I guess it's kind of fun. All right. Um, Random thoughts. I've kind of hogged the topics with these, but you guys have any random thoughts to throw out to the group?
But what do you guys think of the post-credit scene?
Which one? The big Doom one?
The Big Doom one. So the post-credit scene happens 4 years after the events of the Fantastic Four movie. We see Franklin, he's a little bit older, and then we see a Doctor Doom. And I I'm under the impression it's that Doctor Doom of that universe, because throughout the film we see two scenes where there's supposed to be Latvia there, but nobody to represent them. So I'm under the impression that Doctor Doom is from that universe. But yeah, what's your guys' thoughts?
Um, like it is so quick. So I would say yeah, he is of that universe. They wouldn't have shown they wouldn't have those references to it if it was like a completely different universe as Doctor Doom.
Hmm.
Anything could happen, of course, but that's my guess. And of course, I like that I like this will be the teaser for the next movie. And I guess it shows that okay, Franklin Richards is somehow going to play a big piece
Hmm.
of this movie. And they might have Franklin Richards fill the role of the Infinity Stones,
Hmm.
where like that's the MacGuffin that all the characters are fighting over.
Yeah.
And rather than being Thanos collecting the 5 stones, it would be Doctor Doom harnessing the power of Franklin Richards.
Hmm.
Yeah, I too read it as this Doom belongs to this movie's Earth. Um, Not only because it seems like this movie really is, like we've been saying, self-contained. It has no connections to other MCU movies or shows. So it'd be weird if they had like a different universe Doom at the end. But also, we were talking about how all the nations of the earth come together to help each other. Well, all but one, right? Because we see in the big gatherings where they're
Hmm.
planning out this solution to teleport the Earth, there is one nation that is a no-show, and that is Latveria,
Hmm.
right? So that implies that Doom does exist in this universe. So I totally read that the Doom we see at the end is this universe's Doom.
Cool. So I read in an interview, I think it was with the director of the Fantastic Four movie, that the Avengers are supposed to be led by Reed Richards.
Hmm.
I find that kind of odd. I think Christian said he also found that odd that here is a dude from a whole nother universe leading the Avengers, Captain America, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, So what are your thoughts, Henry?
I think it's strange too, because this Earth, the Earth from the Fantastic Four movie, is so different from the Earth 616, right? It's very different. And Reed Richards wouldn't have the context of existing on Earth 616. So if the majority of the Avengers team is 616 based, then yeah, it's a weird fit for a leader, I think. Yeah, I'm with you.
What about you, Christian?
Yeah, I don't believe it. I think that's just probably going to be a rumor. Like he has his own team,
Yeah.
the leader of the Fantastic Four.
I mean, it is
Fantastic.
Pedro.
Yeah, it is Pedro, but like I guess you've seen like members have joined the Avengers, but has Reed ever actually joined the Avengers before?
I'm sure there's some comics iteration.
Somewhere.
The better question I think is, has he ever led the Avengers? That I don't
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Stay in your lane, Mr. Fantastic.
So, um, I guess another thing I kind of want to ask is, we all know about the love triangle in the comics between Reed Richards, Sue Storm, and Namor. So,
Right.
Christian, who would Sue Storm choose, Pedro or Namor from Wakanda Forever?
um, yeah, definitely Pedro Pascal, man.
I
Smartest man. He like pretty much he takes out like the entire villains. And it like a throwaway line where like, he takes them up to the tower and be like, "I did this for our child." And it's just all these sting operations
Mhm.
across the entire city. And it's just like, damn, you just took out all the villains. Like, whereas like, Namor, he lost to Black Panther. So Reed Richards would totally take out Namor.
Would it be Henry? Who's Sue Storm choosing? Yeah, she gets to choose between two Latino dudes.
Well, yeah, good question. I think you kind of see how Reed gets on our nerves, right? He's like too analytical, too logical. I could see where Namor could be a big appeal because he's like this hothead who really is emotional, right? And I could see her being kind of enticed by that fire, right? Her husband is too straight-laced and she wants a little bit of excitement in her life, you know? I could see that. I think in the long run, you could tell that Sue and Reed are meant for each other and they love each other very much, but maybe for
Love drama.
a little weekend affair type action, I I could see Sue maybe straying for a temporary period.
The like, I think like if they did something like that, it would probably be before they had their baby. If this was like a young, like up and coming Fantastic Four, whereas now,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, man. Pedro
Yeah.
Pascal, he's got that dad energy to him.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's too late at this point,
Yeah.
Hmm.
maybe earlier in their lives. All right. Any other general thoughts before we move on to ratings?
I have a question for you guys.
Hmm.
Okay, so at the end of Thunderbolts, of course, the Fantastic Four crashed down on this universe on 616. Um, so Fantastic Four 2, do you guys think that they're gonna come back to this universe,
Mm.
838, or is this the only 83? It will it be like Captain America, the first Avenger, where you kind of have your own little bubble, but then everything else will take place in a the main universe, and they're just like coming over.
I see them coming back to their universe. They did not want to leave the world. Um, I yeah see them, from the Thunderbolt scene, teleport into the 616 universe, and based off the post-credit scene in Fantastic Four, it's because they are gonna chasing after their son. So after that, I feel like they would want to go back to their universe. But then I could see it making sense if it was like, oh, this is a one-way ticket. Once you leave, you can't come back. So maybe that's why they're saying like, oh, Reed Richards is gonna lead the Avengers afterwards because we're gonna see more projects with that, And they're like, okay, well, sorry people, but our son's more important. As you saw, we couldn't give him up for you guys for Galactus. So peace.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll see this universe again, Earth 828. Kind of like what you're saying, Christian. It feels like a Captain America thing where they had a standalone movie in a different setting, but we're gonna leave all that behind, kind of thing. Yeah, I feel like there's some potential cool stuff where we could see some fish out of water type thing going on, where the Fantastic Four is used to their home universe and it's very different, right? Um, I definitely got the sense that this is the last we'll see of it. I may be wrong, but that's just kind of my gut feeling. All right. Anything else before ratings?
No, I think I'm good.
Right. All right. On that note, why don't you kick it off, Christian, on a scale of five, 1 out of 5, or 1 through 5, sorry. What would you rate Fantastic Four First Steps?
I really like this movie. I think while I do have some gripes about it, um, things I didn't see or things that made played out. Part of it, I did really enjoy the ride of this movie. I I thought I loved the world. I thought I really like the actors and the way they all portrayed their different characters. Um, and I like that this movie kind of felt like something very new and fresh for Marvel, and how this felt very disconnected. And it was very much doing its own thing. I remember walking out and feeling like, it was not what I was expecting. There's not a lot of action, and the movie kind of leans into much more of a sci-fi vibe than your typical superhero movie. And I really dug it. I would definitely watch this again. Um, and I thought it was just a really solid time. Um, uh, I think I'm teetering between a 3 and a 4. I think a 4 almost seems like the me to say. I give Fantastic Four a 4, but I did really like it, so I'll say Fantastic Four is 4 out of 5.
Mhm.
Right. Okay, I can go next. So let's see. Fantastic Four First Steps. Yeah, I've kind of spelt out my pluses and minuses with this one. And yeah, I'm definitely more middling here. Yeah, lot of hits and misses here, I would say. So I'm gonna go with a 3 out of 5 recommendation, but more of a mild recommendation. And I was thinking about it, how this movie really is wholesome. It's lighthearted, wholesome, fun. You can bring your family to it. And I started digging within myself, thinking like, am I just like cold-blooded and just am I just like dead inside, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. I was sort of considering other like wholesome type movies. Like we mentioned Captain America, the First Avenger. There's a similar vibe with that. And that movie I really enjoyed a lot. So, I don't think I'm dead inside. So that's my conclusion. I'm not dead inside. And my problems with this movie weren't just because it's a wholesome movie. There's nothing wrong with a superhero movie being on the wholesome side and not super edgy and violent, right? Um, I think what it boils down to is some of the stuff we touched upon where, Christian, you mentioned the quote unquote comic book movie logic. There's a lot of suspension of disbelief going on here. Um, it's that kind of movie. It's a movie with Mole Man in it and a lot of cosmic shit. Um, so it's really not grounded. So the combination of the two things make for a fun time, entertaining, certainly, but it's not something I could really engage with, right? We're talking about like the super fun, wholesome atmosphere and like a lot of plot points that are really hard to like get behind and really believe in. Yeah. So watching this film, like you kind of have to put a lot of stuff aside and kind of let your head go up in the clouds a bit and let your fantasy side take over and just go with it. So it's a fun time. I'm not like saying don't see this movie. I am recommending it, and I think most people will have fun. It's just that I didn't walk away thinking that was a great movie. I walked away from it thinking that was a good movie. So 3 out of 5. What about you, Porfirio?
I really enjoyed this movie. I think I will say I like this a little bit more than Superman, but I think it's because I did some mistakes, maybe from both ends. I had high expectations with Superman, and so I was a little disappointed. Whereas Fantastic Four, I had very low expectations. Marvel hasn't had the best track record lately, so because of that, I was blown away of how good it was. So I really enjoyed it. Um, I thought it was a good mix of emotions, comedy, action. Um, it was a really fun movie. I really enjoyed myself. I found myself smiling really hard, a lot of scenes, being at the edge of my seat, and I really hate being one of those people, but I was definitely like, yes, Marvel is back, you know? So I had a good time with this movie. I would definitely watch this again. So I would give this a 4 out of 5.
Right on. And if we're talking box office, you could definitely argue that Marvel is back, right? This movie's making a lot of money, and for superhero movie fans like us, that is a very good thing. With that, we can wrap up the episode. This is farewell from Henry, Porfirio, and Christian.